Tattoos, a stain or an art form? A question that divides opinion of people all around the world. Tattoos have been around since 3000 BC and have been used in various cultures: Egyptian, Chinese, Japanese, and many more. So why is there a stigma against them even though they have been a prominent part of history? Some say that they are tacky and it is stupid to get something forever stained on your skin and that they cover up the natural beauty of the body. Others say that our bodies are merely a living canvas that should be painted or covered with pieces of art. In this documentary, I gather the opinions of 3 different people: a tattoo designer, a Muslim, and a man who wishes to have his whole body tattooed. We start with Bethany, the tattoo designer.
Hi Bethany, let's just get started, shall we? So, would you consider tattoos as an art form then?
Definitely. I think it's unique as a genre of art in itself, as well as being part of art as a whole. Like what I mean is that you can have traditional tattoo art, which you'd only ever see in the form of tattoos, and has come from like the community and creativity of different tattoo artists. But then you also have tattoos which have been inspired by art elsewhere that then become tattoos.
I understand completely, that makes perfect sense.
Well, I'm an example of someone who isn't a tattoo artist but loves producing art, and my art then becomes a tattoo. So I think a huge amount of creativity goes into the production of a good tattoo, and that's the same as any other form of art. And I think it's actually one of the most intimate customer-artist relationships because it takes a lot of trust.
How did you get into designing tattoos in the first place? I mean, what was your inspiration and just how did you get into it?
Well, I really wanted to get back into drawing because after I did A-level fine art, I hadn't really produced any work in ages and I was feeling quite restless. I used to share my work on social media a lot, and people would say they wanted to buy pieces or ask me to do custom pieces, but I never really took it seriously. Like when I was studying, I kind of thought people were just being nice, you know? But then nearly a year ago, I decided to make an Instagram account dedicated to my art and started drawing again a lot more frequently. And then within a couple of days, one of my friends, who was already heavily tattooed, had asked me to design one for him, and then his sister wanted one, and it just kind of went from there really. I think I did about 5 within that first month, and obviously they didn't all get the tattoos straight away. Sometimes people just wanted to have the design that they're happy with, and then they'll go get it tattooed later on. And sometimes people just buy a drawing I've already done rather than going through the whole design process with me. But actually one of my friends has 3 of my designs on him, which was pretty crazy to see.
Can you explain to me some of the stories behind your designs or some of the inspirations and requests from customers?
Yeah, of course. So my friend who first got in contact with me for a tattoo went through a really crazy year and wanted to commemorate the end of it with a big piece on his arm that had the date that his court case was over, with the tree and root symbolising growth, and it has the words "roots remain through the storm" on it. And that was quite cool because I've been around to see part of how difficult that time was for him. So I loved that I got to design a piece for him as well. And it was really great designing it, but I don't think the tattoo he got is actually that true to the drawing I did, which is a shame, but it's to be expected. Because someone else is the actual tattoo artist, the design can often look a lot different when it's recreated onto the skin.
What's the favourite design you've ever done?
My favourite design I've ever done would be the anchor image. And the anchor makes a P, and the ropes tied in a sailor's knot around it make an X, which is a monogram of Chi and Rho, which are the first 2 letters of the Greek for Christ, which is Christos. And the guy who commissioned it wanted something that symbolised his faith, as well as his passion for boats and fishing, and Christ being like an anchor in the waves that you can see behind the anchor. And there were so many components to this, so I loved bringing it all together and creating something that he was actually really pleased with.
I see that you have some tattoos of your own. Do you mind explaining the meaning of some of them and when did you get those?
Yeah, so the first one is just a little tally, and that's just for my family, because there's 5 of us and I think family is super important, so I wanted to get them on me forever. And I also thought it would make them more okay with me getting a tattoo. That's kind of a joke, but it did actually work. They thought it was actually really cute, and they're all saying they're going to get it now, which is great. And the other tattoo I've wanted for 4 years or so, ever since I started studying art history and became obsessed with Italian Renaissance art, and especially Michelangelo, who is just incredible. I went to Rome and to the Sistine Chapel and got to actually see the painting as well, so it's a lovely reminder of that trip and how much I love Rome. Also, when I was younger, my parents used to have a poster of these hands in our house, And I remember my dad talking to me about God's strong hand reaching out to Adam, and I just think it's beautiful imagery of God reaching out to us. But I don't always think tattoos have to have loads of meaning, it just so happens that mine do so far.
Finally, why do you think that there is this stigma around tattoos, and do you ever think it will eventually fade away?
I think a lot of it is historical and has therefore become a generational thing, because it only used to be a certain type of person that would have tattoos, so it's hard for older generations to forget that. Like for example, my grandma always says when she was younger it was only prostitutes and gang members that had tattoos, so I can understand that she would have a harder time understanding how widely available they've become, and that they're actually a really great way to express yourself and decorate your skin. But I think if you research artists properly and allow some time before you actually commit to an idea or design, then you can't go too wrong, really. Yes, obviously tattoos age and look different, but that's just because human bodies age and look different, so that's just life. I think when our generation are the ones who are the oldest people alive, the stigma will have faded a lot, and I think that will be pretty cool.
Well, that's it. Thank you so much for doing this, Bethany.
Secondly, I interviewed the Muslim man Shahid and discovered his opinions around tattoos. So Shahid, why is it wrong or frowned upon to get tattoos in the Islamic faith?
Well, it's haram for many reasons, so I'll tell you the more basic reasons. It'll be easy to understand. You can't get tattoos, as in you can't perform wuzu, which you have to do to be able to pray. This is because the ink will be covering your skin, which will mean you won't be able to clean it properly and cleanse it, because you need to clean your whole body before you can perform salah, which is praying. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons, so you won't be able to pray. The other reason is we believe you're not allowed to harm your body or modify it in any sort of way. The other reason is if you get a tattoo, you can't visit your family's and friends' graves. It's forbidden in our religion if you got a tattoo.
Would you consider tattoos as an art form then?
Well, that depends if they're temporary tattoos or permanent tattoos. If they're temporary and it's something that you can take off, I think that's fine, and I can see how that can be considered or perceived as an art. But permanently doing something to your body or modifying it, I don't see that as an art. I see it more as self-harming than anything else.
That's really interesting. But do you eventually think the stigma will fade away around tattoos?
It depends how long religion is around for, to be honest. I think if religion is around for, which I don't think it'll go away, I think the stigma will always be there. Even if cultural things change, I think the stigma will always be there.
Okay. And finally, if it weren't frowned upon in your religion, would you think about getting a tattoo yourself maybe?
To be honest, no. Personally, I wouldn't never get a tattoo. I think mainly because you're changing the way you look. Even if it wasn't for religion, I still probably would think the same way. Personally, even if I didn't follow any religion, for that matter, I still wouldn't get a tattoo because it's permanent. You can't change it once it's on your body, and if you try to change it, it'd be really painful. So I would never do it.
Thank you so much for doing this, Shahid. Finally, I interviewed Ryan Hitchin, a man who eventually wants to have his whole body covered with tattoos and sees his body as a living canvas. How old were you when you first got a tattoo?
I was about 19, maybe 20.
And what was the reason for you wanting one?
I'd always been kind of drawn to getting one, but I never really knew what I wanted to get. And eventually I just kind of bit the bullet and just got my first tattoo.
How many tattoos do you have in total?
Technically quite hard to count because they're all full pieces, but I've got both sleeves, a full chest piece, a half leg sleeve, and I've got a small piece on my other knee.
Okay, and do they all mean something to you, or do you just thought they looked fashionable and you just sort of wanted to get that?
It was just something I was drawn to. I wouldn't particularly say they're fashionable. A lot of tattoos people get because everybody else has got that style of tattoo. None of mine are like that. I've always had like quite a big part of planning my tattoos and designing them myself. But the only one that I've really got of any meaning is I've got the Manchester Bee on my knee from the bombings earlier this year.
Can you tell me a time when you've ever faced bigotry or someone's ever been rude to you over your tattoos or anything? Because there's quite a big stigma out there against them, isn't there?
Yeah, there was actually an occasion not that long ago where I was working behind the bar that I work at, and a guy came up to me. I'd not spoken to him all night. He just randomly came up to me whilst on shift and said, I've been thinking about it, and I think it's stupid to get tattoos because at some point in your life you've got to accept Jesus. And at that point I just didn't know what to reply, say or do at that point. So I kind of just went, thanks, and walked away.
So obviously, you would class tattoos as an art then? You would
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
100%.
And would you then see your body as a canvas, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I'm constantly looking to add towards it. I've currently got a full back piece planned. I just need to save up about £2,000 to put it on my back.
Looking forward to seeing that. And what would you respond if someone said that tattoos are merely a stain covering up the natural beauty of the body? Like you said before, the guy who said you need to accept
Yeah.
Jesus, like where people who have tattoos are covering up what God intended, or something like that.
No, I don't think that at all. I think, if anything, that adding to the beauty, it's something that draws the eye. There's some artwork out there that is absolutely outstanding. People that sit for 100 hours plus on one area of the body, and it becomes an actual work of art. And the fact that that's being done with a tattoo machine that's putting the needle in the skin 150 times a minute, it's crazy to think that that can be done like that instead of someone with a paintbrush that can spend hours doing it.
Thank you for doing this, Ryan. 3 people with 3 different opinions on tattoos have shown me that love them or hate them, they are a prominent part of culture, and that maybe in the future the stigma will fade unless a person's religion is against them. Thank you for listening.